Namaskaram. I am happy to associate myself and inaugurate the academic activities 2022-2023 under the banner of the Research and Development Cell and Research Forum, Department of English, University College, Thiruvananthapuram. It is always a very fascinating area of activity which comes under a very broad caption research. Today everything lends itself to interpretation, especially language. So many ways we can interpret or misinterpret language, and in the field of literature, especially in the field of literature dealing with history, not so much science or geography or anything like that, but history, which is a pliable subject. There our capabilities of interpretation and misinterpretation come into full play. As we know, the evolution of language is in itself a very fascinating area of exploration. In Indian ethos, we have been told that the earliest form of sound was a resonance, which later became a vibration. Sachidanandam came into Ahadam Anahadam, and then it went on to Shabdam or sound, which went into voice, and voice went into words, Aksharam, that which has no dissolution, Ksharam illatad Aksharam, into Aksharam, which went into words, sentences, etc., 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 brought out from the human body through the 4 stages, Parapashanti, Vaikhari, Madhyama, to come into the present. You may of course be very well aware that even today, in the snowy, mystic, unexplored regions of the Himalayas, there exist certain rishis who still speak what is called Sandhya Bhasha, inaccurately translated as twilight language. It does not have words, it does not have letters, it is based on resonance and vibrations, and they communicate with each other like that. So man's ability in this field is something very, very vast. What we feel is, or what I feel is, that Aksharam, because of its permanent nature, that which it has no dissolution, it is without Ksharam. Like everything else, I suppose you should treat with reverence and respect. And when you go into the highly fascinating area of history, you can deal with history in whatever way you want, but not deal with history which should be degraded into yellow paper journalism under the caption of history. That is very, very unfortunate and lamentable. Of course, the authors of such literature, whoever they may be, if there are such people, may be thinking that they are doing a very great service to humanity, or they are bringing into light explosions which would sort of shake and shatter many established beliefs. They would bring about their own idea of what history should be, bring new themes, new forms to old ideas. Characters would be the same, of course they have to be same, because if you want to finish off somebody, you cannot bring in another character, it has to be the same. Chronicle, I beg pardon to English language for using the word chronicle in this particular respect, because it is not a chronicle many times, it is just defamation. Again I say, if there are people who do that, I hope there are none, but if there are, it would be, of course, if you say negative things about people, it would make more interesting reading. If I say that you are good, or you are wise, or you are intelligent, you are educated, who wants to hear? If I say defamatory things about you, and there is no kadinjana, there is nothing to rein in. You can, the sky is the limit, you can go on and on and on. And if you also have an umbrella of power behind you, definitely your lamentable words can have a far greater reach. You can bring in books which could perhaps go into many editions with a blink of an eye or a bat of an eyelid. It is all possible. And of course, maybe possibly you must be a little lucky also. Anyway, coming to my topic of today, this is only just generalization. I hope it is not intentional, or I hope it is not taken as intentional. But anyway, even as I say that, I have to slightly contradict myself as I proceed. University College itself is a part of history. The history which goes behind the University College, especially in the earlier years, has been something which has been really and truly remarkable, which our people who have graduated from the University of Kerala, Travancore University in 1937, I would rather use the word grateful than proud. Should be very, very grateful that they hold the legacy of something stupendous. Let me come back to the task which has been assigned to me, that is very aptly termed rewriting and rewriting historiography. One of the staff of the English department herself has given this. It is really very fantastic. Rewriting and rewriting, putting right, writing and correcting historiography. Actually, I don't really have to say anything. In this caption, everything has been said. But whatever it may be, since I am asked to speak a little on this particular work, and they have very specifically said, History Liberated, the Sri Chitra Saga, authored by me. Padmanabha Swami has been very benign to me, and I have written, or I have been allowed to write 13 books. This History Liberated is my 13th book. Some people say 13 is an unlucky number, but I have found 13 a very, very lucky number. Whatever has come 13, many times, not always, has been very lucky, and including History Liberated. It has taken about 3.5 years for me to write, and during my journey, Kallum Mullum, Gundum Guzhiyum, Kaadum Medum Thandi, it has gone on. I have travelled to Delhi, to Chennai, to the archives in Trivandrum, both the archives, met many people, went to the British Library in London, Commonwealth Library. I must confess that I did not go there for this particular purpose. I was in London and I utilized the chance to go. Anyway, it has been an exciting journey. Many times, many times I have felt almost exhilarated with the information that I have got. Many years ago, I had started writing a book. The Lamp Eternal was the title, on Maharaja Sri Chitra Thirunal Ramavarma, the last Maharaja to rule our lovely state of Travancore, the palm-fringed paradise of India. I happen to be the heir, along with many members of my family, to a very, very huge legacy of good fortune. When people ask me for my biodata, I give them two alternatives. I say, you want a biodata which is over in 2 or 3 sentences, or do you want a biodata which goes on to many pages? Of course, they always choose the second. But my first biodata in 3 sentences is only this. It is relevant to the book. That is why I am saying it, that I am a child of good fortune, Saubhagyathinte Sandati, for having been born into the family of Sri Padmanabha Dasas. That is my biodata. And I always add, not in the biodata, a line of explanation, because I do not want interpretation here, that the term Dasa has 2 meanings. One, you are a servant, one, you are a slave. My family, my old family, old not necessarily in age, that also, but in terms of time, we always opt for the second, slave, because a servant has independence of decision. If I do not want to work for you or associate with you, I can leave. But the slave has no option. The slave is forever bound to the feet of the master. In this case, not in chains of steel or iron, not iron, steel, sorry, iron, not in chains of iron, but in silken strands of bliss. Anandathinte pattunooil. We are very happy. Now, coming back to again, I am sorry I keep on saying coming back, possibly you will all think a lot of repetition of the same sentence. You say you are coming back, you threaten you are coming back, and you never come back. So, that is not, I am sorry, but I am a somewhat disorganized person. Now, many years ago, I had started a book, The Lamp Eternal. It was about Maharaj Thirunal. I have the singular good fortune, not singular, I mean my sister, brother, all of us, of having been born as the children of his only sister, Karthirunal Lakshmi Bayi. He was our uncle, and you know, in a matrilineal society or Marimaka time, the uncle is very important. In this case, the uncle who is also the head of the family. He was for us everything. Whatever you would say, that which is good, which is sweet, that which is gentle, that which is good, that which is pious, give it a human form, and that was he. I have no words, my vocabulary runs short to talk about him. He was such a wonderful human being, wonderful human being. Even during his lifetime, many people used to call him Pratyaksha Padmanabhan, for us, he was everything. Anyway, even today, as I sit here and talk to you, the food that I eat, the water that I drink, the clothes that I wear, the roof of my head, are all next to Padmanabha Swami, what he, and to a great extent my grandmother, his mother, Maharani Setu Parvati Bayi, had given. This is an introduction to my book. When I started the book many years ago, I had a lot of reservations on writing it. I found it difficult to write about him. And when I was in Kollam for a function, I had some time, I took the papers with me, and I wrote up to, I had been writing, and I came to a part where he was born, where Maharaja was born, and the next paragraph was just one sentence, and Sri Padmanabha Swami smiled. With that I stopped, and I could not write any more. I just could not write. Then subsequently I have written so many books have come thereafter. And this book just went into cold storage, and it was there. Now I realize why Padmanabha Swami smiled. He did not want me to write, because if I had written that book at that period of time, it would have been a very different presentation, and you cannot write another book somewhat contradictory on the same subject at a later date. So it was the greatest blessing that he put a stop. He smiled and said, you stop and get lost. Don't do anything more about this. So, anyway, now I realize why that happened. Then many years went, many summers passed by, much water flowed under the bridge. And as the English poet said, men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So, though I don't go on forever, but my writing continued. Then came a time when certain papers brought out big news. The same papers have not touched my book, but they brought out big news. Why can't I say the name of the paper? It's truth after all. I am not saying this is the Hindu paper. The Hindu paper gave very big coverage to two books at two different time spans, years, a few years difference, and both the books had much to say negatively, of course, about Maharaja Thirunal and his mother Maharani Setu Parvati Bayi. She was of course more the target, but then he was also very much a target, and of the two books, one of them was very readable also, or so I am told, and the books went on. When the first book was released in Thiruvananthapuram, it was my uncle, my younger uncle, Martandavarma Maharaja Uttaradandirnal, who released the book without knowing what it contained. I had gone, anyway, all those things are not, I won't say that, but anyway, I bought the book. I remember 200 rupees. Subsequently, I felt, oh my goodness, why did I spend 200 rupees to hear this or read? But much later, I changed my mind. It is worth 2,000 rupees or 20,000 rupees for me as far as my book History Liberated is concerned. Because when I read the book, after I read about 4 pages, it was putting up my pressure. I thought I have low pressure, so it's okay. And so it was putting up my pressure, and I wrote in response 20 pages. With the papers in hand, I went down. Maharaja Thirunal was not, I think it was after he had moved on. I came down, my younger uncle and my mother were both right there, so I waved the papers under their nose and said, what's this? Then I told them, you know the book which you read, it's very, very, very negative, and I am writing a response. 4 pages I have read, and I have written 20 pages. So my mother said, 4 pages you read and you have given 20 pages in response. By the time you finish the book, your response will run into volumes, and who is going to read it? To whom are you going to send it? I said, I am going to send it to the mother of the author. I said, the best person to send it. Best person to send it. She will immediately, after reading one paragraph, she will throw the whole thing into the waste paper basket. Why do you want to read it? Leave it. I have left it. I think somewhere among my old papers, those 20 pages would be somewhere there, but then I left it. I never did anything. Then subsequently came the next book. And that book made a big noise, and then not very surprisingly, it was translated into Malayalam by connected people, not surprising at all, and the Malayalam version I think is doing its rounds, I don't know, must be. However, many of my friends, when the English book came, they told me, why don't you challenge the book in court? Then some of my friends, actually 2 of them are present here as of now. One person said it, and one person talked about it, and the other person told me, why don't you write? Why don't you write? I said, I can't. I just can't write because the subject is so sensitive, and I wouldn't know how to deal with it in the present changed circumstances. No, that would be perhaps setting the record right, among other things. I started thinking, if somebody does not write, these two books, especially the second book, would remain in the shelves as part of history, and this would become history because there is nothing to contradict it, there is nothing available. Finally, I decided I will try. I did not know how to start, how to proceed, what to include, what to exclude, how to title, how to subtitle, and how to conclude. It was all very, very vague, a huge array of question marks. So, I was in a bit of a fix. As they say in Ayurvedam, there are a number of Ottamulis. In my life also, there is an Ottamuli, that is Sri Padmanabha Swami. Without his blessings, I cannot write even a word, even a letter I cannot write. And all my 12 books were written by his blessings. But when it came to this particular book, at that time, title and all those things were not even thought of. I sent up my submission to him. Without your blessing, I cannot write. But in this case, please do not stop with your blessings. Please get up, come, hold my hand and make me write. And he did it. I don't know how many people in the audience, how you will take it. You may think it is an exaggeration or something which is said for effect or some nonsense, something, whatever it may be. But I assure you, as far as I am concerned, it is 100% true. Actually, by a conspiracy of circumstances, today I am sitting in the Krishna Vilasam Palace, which was the palace of Sri Moolam Thirunal Maharaja, who ruled Travancore before Sri Chitra Thirunal, with a period of regency coming in between, because he was a Maharaj in minority when Maharani Setu Lakshmi Bayi ruled as regent. But Maharaja Moolam Thirunal's palace, which has witnessed so much history, so many momentous events and incidents in Travancore's history, many of them impacting Indian history also. And sitting here, I am telling you, this is true. I could never write a book like this. It just got written. My hand held the pen, yes, that is true. I do not know, I am somebody born 100 years behind time. I do not know how to use the computer. You are all English department. I wonder if I can spell computer right. That is my knowledge about computers. I cannot use all those things, and I do not like to dictate. So, I chose a way which was most comfortable for me, my comfort zone, which is writing with my own hand. So, I have written books and books and books. First you write the proof, then you correct the proof, rewrite it, fair it and rewrite in something else, and then it goes to the computer, which was done by a young lady who was very helpful to us. And once the proof is over, my other two mentors, Madam Uma Maheshwari and Professor Nalin Ganesh, they also did a lot of, they were the guiding spirits in the correction, alteration or correction, everything, they were there. Without these three people, this book may not have come to this stage so fast. Even then it took 3.5 years. Anyway, so Bhagavan made me write the book, and I kept on writing. I have written for 8 hours at a stretch with just tiny breaks in between. I could write up to 2:30 in the morning and then go to bed, get up again. But in the morning I never used to write. Some of them are very early birds who get up at 4 o'clock, and I cannot do that. But night, like that, everything, it was divine grace for me. Anyway, and then all the captions for the different paragraphs, chapters, it all came like that, just kept on coming. So anyway, finally that is it, and I had decided to title the book The Untold Story. And my niece told me there are 6 books of the same title doing their rounds. So, I changed my mind in a hurry and I said, then what do we do? Then different solutions or suggestions came, and it was my elder sister, Princess Thirunal, who suggested the title Liberated History. I changed it, made it ulta and made it History Liberated, that is all. The Sri Chitra Saga came to me, Bhagavan gave it, and that is how it is, and it has gone. And when I read, I must tell you, apart from all the scholars I have consulted, the number of records that we have gone through, and for all that they were all so helpful. Moma came with me to the archives. Nalin was there to suggest which books you should look at to. I mean, I was helped so much, especially by these three people. And then, however, and as the thing progressed, things started falling into place, and so many experts and scholars I have consulted. Ordinary people on the roads, so many people have been consulted, and that is how it came. But one very important thing which I have to say is that in this book, though I have made it as the Sri Chitra Saga, which is what it is, and it goes back before the time my grandmother and the Regent Maharani were born, before they were even conceived, that time it goes back up to the time when it has to naturally come to a full stop. It is in two parts. One part is the entire official, non-official, but things which have happened, the events, his reign, Maharaja's reign, everything. And the second part, memories of the different members of the family who are today there, except Maharaja Uttaranandana, who had dictated this thing to Madam Uma Maheshwari, and it was recorded. So, that alone, but all the others are alive, and we are today perhaps, in Professor Nalin Ganesh's words, living records. So, that is how it goes, and the two sections are like that. But in the first section, which deals with all these things, a part of it was also an attempt to rewrite, as she said, to rewrite this history, to make it right, put it right, because it had been mutilated, it had been mauled, it had been put out of gear for whatever reasons, I do not know, because it was so one-sided, we do not know why. In fact, one of the people who wrote this literature spoke to my sister or contacted her, I do not think contacted and said, if you have anything to say about your grandmother, I will include it in my book. So gracious, so gracious. So, I will include it in my book. But I must tell you, I am presenting her as a baddie. I am presenting her, so that will go on. So, she replied, I am not interested in telling you anything, you have already given the prejudgment. So, whatever I might say, it will only be a sort of apaswaram. So, why should I am not interested, and she did not. And you have depended on bits and pieces of papers which you call records. But I must add one more sentence to this, clarification. You know, they say it is the right of the woman to change her mind. So, I have changed my mind a little, not changed my mind, I am adding a clarification that first, though she refused, secondly, she has sent a very small, precise, but very good mail in reply to it. That is how it is. And when I wrote the book, my friends kept on telling me, please read these two books. I said, I have enough material, why should I read the two books? I do not read them. I am giving what I know, I am not going for anything else, that is all. But then as the time progressed, my halo became a little dark, it assumed a darker hue, and I went through the entire book, first book, entire book, and it was a gold mine of information for me. I could not believe it, the things that lady has written herself, which I have quoted chapter and verse, page, chapter and verse, and included in my book to refute what she has said. When she said that a particular personality never wanted to reign, she, as the pages go, she said, now that the event has actually happened, the personality was a little tense. Though this personality had been preparing oneself, or that personality itself, for this event all along. I mean, I have written it very clearly in the book, so I do not want to say anything more. Very, very clear, I have mentioned who it is, what was the preparation, what was the event, who was preparing everything. Name wise, I am not saying it here, that is all. Like this, so many contradictions, so many contradictions. In another place, the author says, now that since we have declared war on them again, since we have declared war on them again, them is my branch of the family, and the other, this I can say, their branch of the family. So like this, so many things. I mean, the book is full of things which made me happy. I must be rather a nasty person, but I am sorry, but I was happy. And those things I have used liberally and generously, quoting the author. It is nothing I have put from my own hand. I have quoted the author. If you think you want to interpret it in some other way, how can you anyway? So, but whatever it is, I have done that. Coming to the second book, which was even more damaging because of its area of reach. It had so many releases all over, and people, this particular author was admired and all that by so many people, so many things happened. Okay, fine, no problem. But I have not read the book. So, when you are going to refute, or when you are using it as one of the reasons, it is not the main, it is one of the reasons, yes, but then many parts it has nothing to do with the book. Then a very good friend of mine, a good Samaritan, I would tell him, this is what I am writing, I have come to this place, can you read the book, find out in that book what is mentioned about this particular subject. So, he would read it and he would give me page 53, then I will put on my gloves and sanitize myself and read page 53, 54, by one page before, one page after. Like that, there also I was able to get so many things which I could present. I mean, it was, I must say, after some time I slightly started enjoying myself. They are saying, I am not saying. How can you say that I am saying? I am not. They are saying, I am only quoting them. There also I have quoted. Then, and even then, at times my friend used to say, your halo is coming back, because I have purposely avoided certain things. I could have said it, I know, I could have said it, including one of the first assassination attempt on Sri Chitri Thirunal, my beloved Panamavan. Who was the person whose hand held the lit candle? Who instigated him? I know all the names, but I have not, because my grandmother said, you must not say, let it die with it, let us not say. So, I have not said it publicly. I have not even given hints by which 2 and 2 4s, you can easily come to a conclusion, but I have avoided it. If somebody decides it is like that, that is not my fault, but I have never given a hint to that. But so many things I have got from both these books. For that, I think I have to thank both the authors of the books for what they have done. There have been idiotic mentions. That second quoting, one of the British, one of the Englishmen who was in power here, I do not know how many of you present here know about Veluttavavu Puja. That is during the full moon. Veluttavavinanna, so many temples, in so many households, they do the Veluttavavu Puja. It is a very sattvic puja, and it is very for auspiciousness and for all that is good. It is nothing negative. It happens even today, even in our family every month there is a Valutava Puja, even now. The Englishman who knows nothing about all this has been told that this is black magic. So, like this, and that is all come in the book also I have mentioned it, and certain places which are so poignant. When my uncle, when Chitra Thirunal, as a young boy, he in Maharaja, in minority, he and his mother, whose biggest crime was that she was born as the mother to the Maharaja. That is her biggest crime. So, and the European, the Englishman, the resident has given orders to my grandmother's brothers and to my grandmother's mother, who were all staying together. In Regent Maharani's house also, so many of the brothers, and they both were big families, lot of siblings, and they were staying together there also, here also. But the resident called up my grandmother's brothers, two of them, and told them, I am telling you that you will vacate Kavadiyar immediately. You are a very bad influence on the young Maharaja, black magic, that, this, the other, so many things they said. And then they said, and most important, you take with you that old lady, your mother, that is a Maharani's mother, and my uncle's grandmother, the person who used to sit with him at night so many days. When as a young boy he had certain health problems, and she would sit there kaliniti with a wick, thick wick, and oil lamp, because another electricity was at a premium, who was part and parcel of his life. And they came back, the brothers came, and if you don't do it, I will be forced to inform the Viceroy, and the directions will come from the imperial court, and that may be embarrassing for Her Highness the Maharani, my grandmother. The two brothers came, they told my great grandmother, that is Maharani's mother, their mother, they told Maharani, Maharaja, we are leaving, we have to go, we cannot stay. And as they got ready to go, and as they were going, Maharaja's grandmother, who is the old lady, she turned and she looked at Maharaja and my grandmother, and she said to my uncle, to Maharaja, Kunye, ini njangal varilla, njangal povuvana. You can just imagine the emotional trauma that they would have undergone. My uncle at the age of young age, just over 11, to see this standing helpless. He is the Maharaja, but he can do nothing. To standing helpless and watching them go. Those things, I don't think whether he would have ever been able to get over the agony that he would have undergone. Like this, so many things have happened. All those things are there in the book, and many things I have taken from these two books only. But many things, otherwise many other things which I have written about the other developments and things like that, I have taken from books, people, scholars, etc., Professor Shankaragutti Nair, M.R. Tamban, Radhakrishnan, M.G. Radhakrishnan, so many people have spoken to, so many people, and that is how it went. Before concluding, I must mention just one chapter in this book, that is on the Punnaparavayala. When I was writing, now Punnaparavayala was a sensitive happening, very sensitive happening during the reign of Maharaja. It had always disturbed him subsequently also. But the Punnaparavayala which normally is presented and what happened otherwise have certain differences. I didn't know, then somebody told me, don't write Punnaparavayala, leave it. I said, if I do not, I am writing the Sri Chitra Saga, and this is a very important happening. So, if I don't write it, definitely my critics will say, will point it out and say, see, she has not mentioned that. That is because they cannot, they just cannot, because she they will all, Maharaja will be painted in a bad light, so they cannot do it. I just didn't know what to do. Then I started my research campaign. I spoke to a Congress leader, I spoke to a political analyst, I spoke to a historian. They all spent their time and energy and knowledge with me. That is very kind of them. Then Varghese Vaidyan, who was a very prominent leader of the Pinnapravala happenings, his family, his son, who knows so much, his son and his grandson came here and spent 3 hours and shared so many, but there also I have been very careful. I have said, can I quote you? Otherwise, I cannot use many of the sentences you have used. They said, definitely you may quote us. So, I have quoted us and I quoted them and used certain strong expressions or sentiments which are theirs, not mine. And Pinnapravala, after I wrote it also, I was worried because of so many reasons how it would be taken. And I requested one very strong leader of the Marxist party, with whom I had some liberty to approach. He came, he sat with me for 3 hours. I read out the entire chapter and I said, if there is anything you want me to delete or alter, tell me, and if it is possible, I will do it. He sat through the whole thing very patiently and he said, it is well written, balanced, and possibly when you write, you can only write like this. That is only a slight question mark. You can only write like this. You do not have to change anything. But I have a suggestion to make. You have included so many people, the Congress people and the political analysts, historians, but you have not taken any quotation from the Marxist party. That you must include. I said, I am ready to include. Then he said, I will tell you. I said, no, please do not tell me. Please write it down and give it to me. Type it or write, because I do not want to get even one word wrong. You can get a word wrong when you are listening. So, he was so kind, he sent me 3 quotations, which I have included. And I said, can I acknowledge you in my this, because he may not sometimes wish to be acknowledged. He said, you may. I have acknowledged him. He said, you may, and have concluded that chapter with Gandhigram in Bengal. With that I have concluded, and that was not bad one way or the other, but that is how that is. So, that was one sensitive chapter, but otherwise I do not think anything else would be contradictory or inflammatory or anything. Anyway, for what it is worth, with all its pluses, all its minuses, I have been able to, or God has enabled me to finish this book. And Konark Publishers, Delhi, who are one among the top publishers, they took it up and they have done a beautiful job of it. KPR Nair is the owner of Konark, and they have done a beautiful job of it, and it has reached places. And I have to say that when the book came out, even before it went into print, 2000 copies were already ordered, even before the first letter was printed. And subsequently, the book was released. Book came to me in March, 3rd week of March, and like all my other books, my release was to submit it to the temple at Patnaswamy. But because of the COVID, it was not possible to have a release function. They said, you can call 100 people and do. I said, well, who are the 100 people I can call? I know so many people, and this 100 people may not come because of COVID. So, finally, you will have all empty chairs. So, I do not want to anyway do that. So, it was on the webinar or whatever it is, Dr. Karan Singh, Maharaja Kashmir, he released it on April 24th from Delhi. By that time, the second impression had already come, and in 3 days time, the governor was gracious enough to release it physically in the Raj Bhavan, with just 5 of us, the core team one would say, only 5 of us went, and it was released, and the third impression came within 4 months, and now the Malayalam translation is going on. Dr. Minnie John from Punyar, wonderful lady, she is doing it, and we are going through again, my mentors, my guardians, they are there to look into it word by word and to give it a final, and God be willing, I think it should come out before the turn of the year. That is how it is. And in conclusion, I have to say that if somebody reads the book, they would find a lot of information, they would find a very nice paper, lot of photographs, printers, ink, etc., etc. But in certain parts, not everywhere, but in certain parts, they carry with them my unseen tears, the tears of blood that my heart wept as I wrote it. It was not easy, those parts, because for me, my Pannamavan, our Pannamavan, Chitra Thirunal, was so absolutely dear. In one of my poems, which I have written in my first book, written in Sri Chitra Thirunal Institute, when he was critically ill, the last week, I had a paper in my hand and I sat in the corridor and wrote. I remember 2 lines, which I have addressed. I can't remember the whole thing, fortunately, but 2 lines. That is, I am addressing it to him, because many people have said that he will have only Ichha Mrityu, that he will go only when he wants. Nobody can, so nobody. He will decide, that's enough. So I have addressed those 2 lines to him. Forsake us not as orphans of time. കാലത്തിൻ്റെ അനാഥകളായിട്ട് ഞങ്ങളെ വിട്ടിട്ട് പോകല്ലേ. Forsake us not as orphans of time. It's English only. But anyway, midnight fell and things went on. So the part of it for me is highly emotional. Even today I cannot read what I have written, those areas. But otherwise, it is, I think, a holistic presentation. As I know, you know, I am not a historian. I mean, academically speaking, I have not taken history. History, as my uncle, younger uncle used to say, is his story or the story of mankind. I am not an English literature student. I am a mere economics BA. That's all. Who has not even seen the doorstep of a school as a student. I have studied only at home along with my sister and brother. So like that. So you will have to perhaps excuse the lacunas that might have come up, presentations in English language, or turn of the phrase, or if you think it's somewhere round peg in a square hole, or whatever you might like to say, for whatever minuses, please bear with it, taking into account my educational background. I am very, very happy to be here today to address you all, and the children who are here are all researchers. My only request to you is that whatever you research, especially if you go into history and law, both which tend themselves to huge interpretation, and please keep to the ethics. Do not compromise with dharma. Do not forget your conscience. Let your conscience be your court, and Bhagavan or whoever, if it is not Bhagavan, it is nature or your whatever it is, I don't know an alternate, be your judge. I wish you all the very best in this wonderful system of educational upliftment which you have decided on. I would have, had I been a student, too late, maybe I would have also loved to be a part of this group. I convey my happiness that I am here with you for this short while, and thank you all, research students, and of course your teachers and professors and everybody for this time that I have spent with you, sharing something about the book and about my thoughts. Thank you. God bless. Namaskaram.